My Ouija Experience by AdrianDunmore. Hello, everyone out there. Today, I wanted to share one of my experiences with the famous Ouija board with you. If you're interested in the occult or the paranormal, then you will probably stumble over one day. And here is my story about just that. Over the years, I've tried using a Ouija board a few times. Mostly, nothing happened, but there were a few moments that it actually worked. And there was one that was really special. I thought this experience might be interesting for some of you. But before I begin with the story, I wanted to mention that a Ouija board isn't a toy. Many people, including the people in the story, try it for fun. They think that it is a game. But regardless of whether you believe in such stuff or not, never do a Ouija session unprepared. And again, if some of you don't believe me, that's absolutely fine. I'm not angry at you for that. It happened 6 years ago when I was 17. It was Halloween and my girlfriend and I attended a Halloween party. We had a lot of fun there, and as it became very late, a few people had the idea to try a Ouija session because someone had brought a board to the party. I have done a Ouija session with my aunt before, in which we tried to talk to a certain person, but sadly, nothing happened. And I was a bit drunk, so I thought it would be fun. My aunt would have been so angry with me, because you should always do a Ouija session with a clear mind. It could be a bad idea when you're drunk or high, but being drunk wasn't our only mistake. Again, when you are doing a Ouija session, then always be prepared. Inform yourself, or do it with a practiced person. Buy frankincense and candles, prepare questions, and do it with respect. You don't know what you could bring into this world, and it could be dangerous. But let's go back to the main story. In the end, there were about 6 people that wanted to try it. My girlfriend and me, 3 other ladies, and a guy that I will call Norman for the sake of this story. That's not his real name. The Ouija board belonged to Norman, but he hadn't tried it before. We went into a quiet room so that the other guests couldn't disrupt us or anything. We were sitting in this room, which was only lit by 2 phones, and we thought that it would be a great time. I don't know anymore how long we were sitting in this room and yelling questions at the board, but 2 of the 3 girls became bored and decided to go back to the story. That is also a big mistake. Never break the circle when you are doing Ouija. Well, in the end, there was just Norman, the other girl, my girlfriend, and me, who tried to summon a ghost. We asked questions again and again, and then something happened. When Norman asked for the 100th time if something is there, the planchette began to move slowly. We had done it. We had finally made contact with something. Norman then asked who the presence was. We got a name, Luca. Norman was very happy with this, that something was finally happening, and we went on talking to Luca. A few moments later, we found out that Luca was a little 8-year-old boy. At this point, I got a bad feeling. My grandpa was a demonologist and did research with paranormal and occult things like ghosts and demons and other things to find out more about it. In his notes, he had mentioned that evil entities like demons often like to disguise themselves as children because they seem harmless, and so was Luca. Harmless and friendly, like a little child. Norman had a lot of fun talking to the boy. But soon, the other girl and my girlfriend also noticed that something was odd. The whole atmosphere of the room was just bad. Then my girlfriend's phone broke. It was brand new, just a few weeks old. I said to Norman that it would be best if we stopped, but he didn't listen. But after a while, the answers we were getting stopped making sense. The planchette just moved to random numbers or letters that didn't make any sense with the questions. And a weird smell came up in the room. It wasn't a good smell. It was disgustingly sweet. I remembered what my aunt had told me about Ouija sessions and the answers you can get. When the answers to your questions stop making sense, then you should stop immediately, because the thing you called is mocking you at that point. It would be stupid to go on. Finally, Norman decided that we should end it, because he was getting annoyed. But you can't just go and leave the board there. You have to ask the entity you're talking to if you can stop the session. But every time we asked, the planchette was just moving to no. And something like that can be a huge problem. The thing was mocking us, and we became a bit afraid. Norman and the other girl wanted to go, but I managed to persuade them to stay a bit longer. Luca's game took longer than we would like. Every time he responded with no or some senseless letter number combinations, but finally he said yes. We could say goodbye. It was truly bizarre how the atmosphere changed after that. It wasn't threatening anymore, and the disgustingly sweet smell was gone. The girl left without a word to us, and Norman was really freaked out after the whole experience. A few days later, I saw Norman again. He didn't look very good, like he was sick. We talked a bit, and he told me that he'd gotten rid of the Ouija board. He said that he'd had terrible nightmares after that night, and that he always had the feeling that something was watching him. He feels a little better now that he's gotten rid of the board. That was the only Ouija session I have had where something like that happened. The other ones were generally very harmless. Interesting, but not that spectacular. And hopefully, Luca, the little boy, is back where he belongs. And that's it. This was the story about the most interesting Ouija experience I have ever had. I hope you also found it interesting and enjoyed it somewhat.
Nursing Home Stories, posted by user emmcuntington. Hey guys, I just love talking about the story of what I had witnessed and experienced. I'll start off by saying, I'm a CNA, and I used to work at a shitty nursing home. I always worked the 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. shift, but this one night in the winter there was a storm. It wasn't too bad, but no one was showing up for the next shift, the 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. shift. So, Before the end of my shift, people were being mandated to stay, and I was one of them. It came to the end of the shift. I did my normal rounds and was about to start some cleaning duties, when my supervisor came up to me and had told me I was switching places with another CNA, which I kinda was okay, but whatever. Where I was sent to had one other CNA, like a shitty place. So, I had to do my rounds again to make sure my hall was all good. When I grabbed my clipboard, I had noticed a woman at the end of the hall. So, I decided I'll just start at the end of the hall so I can check on this woman first. I had asked her if there was anything wrong and introduced myself. Her reply was only, "Couldn't sleep." So, I asked her if they could do anything for her, but she never responded. So, I just started my rounds. As I came out of the first room, I realized she wasn't there anymore. So, I decided to speed up on checking people to try and find this woman. About halfway down the hall, I was heading out of the room, and to my surprise, she was standing there, in the doorway. I jumped back and slightly yelled from getting scared. Luckily, I didn't disturb anyone. I began asking her where she was and where she wanted to go, thinking maybe after her little walk she'd be tired. She only answered with short answers. Yes, no, sure. I asked her where her room was. 134, which wasn't on my side, and she was quite a bit from the room. So, I took her there, and the room was weirdly cold and empty. I asked if she was cold and tucked her in, and that was that. Later on, me and the other CNA were called in for the beginning of the shifts meeting. When the phone rang, it was room 134 asking for me. With that being said, I told the nurse about the lady being off and her little trip around the unit, and asked why her room alone was so cold and empty. He answered with, "There's no one in room 134. That woman passed away 1 or 2 nights ago." I laughed, saying, "No way! I tucked her in and had conversations with her. Stop joking around." He showed me her documentation of her passing, and then her empty room. I couldn't even fathom that had actually happened. It's still a huge shock to me.
My Childhood Spectral Friend by user/Wilfrik, submitted to r/ghoststories. This didn't happen recently, but rather when I was around 7 years old. I had to say it was an early morning one day. I happened to see from the living room window a glimpse of a child around my age playing in my front yard. Didn't think anything of it at first. My siblings usually had friends over, so I didn't think anything of it. Now, me being a stupid kid, when I saw another kid, I was like, oh cool, someone to play with. So I ran outside. No sign of the kid. I went back in and went to my room, since there wasn't anybody there. Not even a few minutes later, I see the kid run past my window. Though I noticed something odd about the kid this time. He didn't have any discernible features. He was completely naked and completely featureless. Even his face, it just wasn't there. Again, naturally being a stupid kid, I bolted outside to catch him and see what he was all about. I saw him round the corner of my house leading to the backyard, so I sprinted full tilt to try to catch him. But he was gone again. Fast forward a few weeks, I'm looking for my favorite shirt before I left for church. It was a simple red and white striped t-shirt. Had been able to find it for a few days, and I was starting to get sad that I couldn't find it. And there he was again. The boy ran past the window to my room again. This time, he was wearing my shirt. My red and white striped t-shirt. I never saw it again after that. And let me tell ya, I was about as livid as a 7-year-old could get. My favorite t-shirt? Come on, at least take something else, like my brother's stuff or something. Fast forward again to about last year. My fiancé and I were walking around a St. Patrick's parade. We passed by one of those palm reader fortune tellers. We live in a small town in Indiana. There's a few of those around where we live. So because my fiancé and I are skeptics, we decided to try it out. We've never had our fortune told, and we both figured it would be fun. Right off the bat, she asks. Did one of you have a miscarriage? And we both answer no. And she says to us while looking at me, I thought I'd ask. I saw a boy with you when you walked by. He's not harmful. He's happy. But he's been with you for a while. Later that night, my fiancé reminded me when I told her about the kid I saw from my childhood, and she wondered if it could probably be him. I originally brushed it off and joked that maybe he grew up to be Slender Man or something. But who knows? I'm still waiting for him to give me back my t-shirt, though. Thank you all for watching. If you want to find the original stories or the voice actors that read them, the links are in the description down below. If you like this sort of content, we will be posting Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. All of this is being done for free and by a small independent team, so be sure to show some love. I hope you all stay creepy, stay safe, and have a gay day.